The lilacs had just started to bloom when Lisa Korhonen opened her front door to find her daughter-in-law standing on the step, a smile that did not quite reach her eyes, and two children clinging to her coat. The air in Helsinki carried the promise of a warm summer, but something inside Lisa's chest felt cold. "Only for the summer," Amelia said brightly as she hauled a suitcase across the threshold. "Just until I find a new flat. You know how hard the market is right now." Lisa nodded, her politeness automatic. "Of course," she said. "You and the children are welcome." The house filled quickly. Toys on the floor, laughter in the hall, the smell of toast and strawberry jam each morning. Lisa had lived alone for almost 5 years since her husband's passing, and at first, the noise felt like a kind of comfort. Her son Mikko visited on weekends, smiling with relief that his mother and wife seemed to be getting along. But Lisa noticed small things. Amelia's shoes left at the doorway long after the children were asleep. A pile of unpaid bills on the kitchen counter that were not hers. The spare room, her late husband's study, slowly filling with boxes that did not belong to her. By midsummer, Lisa's once quiet mornings had turned into a routine of compromise. The children used her best towels to build forts, Amelia took over the living room for remote work, and her own cup of morning coffee was now an afterthought amid the chaos. Still, she said nothing. It was only for the summer. One evening, while washing the dishes, Lisa overheard Amelia on the phone. Her voice was low but clear. "No, I'm not looking for a place yet. We're comfortable here. It's better for the kids." Lisa froze, her hand resting in the soapy water. Outside, the Finnish sun hung stubbornly in the late-night sky, refusing to set. For the first time, she wondered if summer might never end. By late August, the air in Helsinki had turned cooler. The long days were growing shorter, the light softer and slower as it slid across the walls of Lisa's house. Yet the people within it showed no sign of leaving. Amelia now kept her clothes in the wardrobe of the guest room. The children's shoes lined the hallway beside Lisa's own. When she mentioned the end of summer over dinner, Amelia simply smiled and said, "We'll start looking after the school term begins. It's just easier this way." Lisa wanted to argue, but Mikko had been away for work that week, and the thought of confronting his wife alone unsettled her. She found herself waking earlier, seeking moments of peace before the noise of small footsteps filled the kitchen. Each morning she stood by the window with her coffee, watching the light creep across the Baltic sky. The silence outside reminded her of the order that once ruled her home. One evening, Lisa entered her own sitting room to find Amelia stretched on the sofa, laptop open, a pile of paperwork around her. The children were asleep upstairs. "I thought you said you were looking for a flat," Lisa said quietly. Amelia did not look up. "I am," she replied, her tone measured. "But the prices have gone up again. You wouldn't want us to live somewhere unsafe, would you?" The words settled heavily between them. Lisa nodded slowly and left the room. As she climbed the stairs, she heard Amelia sigh, not with guilt, but with ownership. Something inside Lisa shifted that night. It was no longer her house that felt invaded. It was her life. The first snow arrived early that year. The streets of Helsinki glowed pale beneath the lamps, and the sound of laughter from the children filled the house as they ran from window to window, watching the flakes fall. Lisa stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. The warmth no longer reached her. When Mikko visited, everything appeared normal. Amelia was charm itself, serving coffee, smiling at her husband, speaking fondly of Lisa's generosity. The moment Mikko left for work again, the house changed. The politeness vanished like breath on glass. One evening, Lisa found her bedroom door open. The children were playing on her bed, pillows scattered across the floor. Amelia was in the kitchen, music playing, unaware or unwilling to stop them. Lisa took a deep breath and spoke firmly. "This room is not a playground," she said. Amelia turned, her expression sharp. "They're children, Lisa. You should be happy they feel comfortable here." Lisa pressed her lips together. Comfort is not the same as respect. The silence that followed was heavy and cold. Later that night, Lisa lay awake listening to the wind. Outside, The snow kept falling, soft but relentless, much like the life that had overtaken her home. It was during the darkest part of December when Lisa received the letter. A polite notice from the local housing authority, addressed to her name. She opened it with shaking hands. It informed her that a formal request had been made by Amelia Korhonen to register her current address, Lisa's address, as her permanent residence. Lisa read the words twice, her pulse quickening. She walked straight to the kitchen, the letter trembling in her grasp. "What is this?" she asked, placing it in front of Amelia. Amelia looked up from her phone, her tone casual. "It's just paperwork. We needed a stable address for the children's school registration. You wouldn't want them to lose their place, would you?" Lisa felt her breath shorten. "You should have asked me." "I did," Amelia replied smoothly. "You must have forgotten." Lisa stood silent, watching the younger woman pour herself another cup of tea in her kitchen, her house, as though she belonged there completely. That night, Lisa sat by the window, the paper lying folded beside her. Snowflakes drifted against the glass. For the first time in her life, she felt like a guest in her own home. When January came, Lisa made a decision. She waited until Miko returned from his latest work trip, then asked him to meet her alone in the garden shed, away from the noise of the house. "I can't live like this anymore," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "She's taken over everything. The bills, the rooms, even the address. You have to speak to her." Miko looked torn, his breath misting in the cold air. "She said you were fine with it. I thought you were happy to have them here." Lisa shook her head. But this isn't a visit anymore. This is something else." He promised to talk to Amelia, but the next evening, the argument that erupted between them filled the entire house. Voices rose, doors slammed, and the children cried from the hallway. When it was over, Miko left for his car, his face pale with defeat. Amelia stood in the kitchen, eyes glinting. "You've embarrassed your son," she said softly. "That's on you." Lisa felt something inside her harden. The line had been drawn. Weeks passed with little conversation. Lisa moved through her house like a ghost, tidying rooms that were no longer hers, cooking meals that were no longer appreciated. The children were polite but distant, mirroring their mother's tone. One afternoon, Lisa heard Amelia speaking on the phone again. "Yes, it's complicated," she said. "But by law, I think we're entitled to stay," she offered after all. Lisa's hand clenched around the dish towel. She felt the sting of tears, but refused to let them fall. That night she began keeping a small notebook. Each date marked, each event noted, conversations, bills, the letter from the housing authority, every word Amelia had said about rights. If she was going to lose her home, she would not go quietly. In March, Lisa filed a formal eviction notice. She placed the papers on the kitchen table before Amelia returned from the school run. When she entered, Amelia read the document with a faint smile. "You think you can throw us out?" she said softly. "We've been living here for almost a year. You'd better check the tenancy laws before you try." Lisa's heart pounded, but her voice was steady. "This is my home. You were guests. That was all." Amelia folded the notice neatly and set it aside. "We'll see what the court thinks." 2 days later, Lisa received her own letter, this time a legal summons. Amelia had taken her to court, claiming she had promised them residence and that removing the children would cause emotional harm. Lisa sat down slowly, the paper cold in her hands. The line between family and stranger had vanished completely. The courthouse in Helsinki stood gray against the spring sky. Lisa walked inside with her lawyer, her steps echoing on the marble floor. Across the room, Amelia sat with her solicitor, calm and poised, the picture of innocence. When the proceedings began, Amelia spoke first. Her words were smooth, practiced. She spoke of hardship, of needing stability for her children, of a kind mother-in-law who had suddenly changed. Lisa listened quietly, each word cutting deeper. When it was her turn, her voice trembled but did not break. She told the truth about the promise of a summer stay, about the letter she never agreed to, about the growing sense of invasion. The judge listened, expression unreadable. As the session ended, Lisa stepped outside into the pale sunlight. She felt both exhausted and oddly lighter. The battle was no longer hidden behind closed doors. Weeks turned into months as the case dragged on. Lisa spent her days alone in the house that no longer felt safe. Amelia avoided her now, speaking only when necessary. One afternoon, Lisa received a small envelope from Miko. Inside was a photograph of the children, smiling on a snowy hill. Beneath it, he had written a single line: "Whatever happens, I'm sorry." She placed the photograph beside the window. The spring light fell across it like forgiveness she hadn't asked for. That night, as she sat in her chair with the notebook on her lap, she realized something. No matter the outcome, she had already reclaimed something precious: her voice. When the verdict came, the sky over Helsinki was heavy with rain. Lisa sat in the courtroom as the judge read his decision. The ruling was clear. Amelia and her children were to vacate the property within 1 month. No compensation, no appeal. The house belonged solely to Lisa. Amelia stood still, her face unreadable. Miko lowered his head. Lisa said nothing. She simply nodded, gathered her papers, and stepped outside. The rain touched her face as she looked up at the gray sky. A bus passed, carrying strangers into the city's rhythm. But Lisa felt no anger, no triumph, only the quiet weight of peace returning. When she returned home, she opened the windows wide. The scent of wet earth drifted through the rooms. The house was hers again, and so was her life.